Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So, thank you for joining us for today's Bhagavad Gita class. We're going to start from the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita. Before we begin, we'll offer prayers together. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitiname Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyataya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gotase Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesh Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for joining us for today's discussion on this Bhagavad Gita program. Let me just start with the presentation, make an introduction for today's discussion, and then we'll start our discussion then. Okay. So today we intend to cover 16 verses of this fourth chapter, which has around 42 verses. Chapter 4 is titled as Jnana Yoga. I'll just will briefly show you the acronyms for the previous chapters that we have discussed, as the acronym really helps us to get a bird's eye view of the whole discussion. The very first chapter, the acronym for it was doubt. D, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, and then ominous results, where Sanjay spoke about the strength of Pandavas, the blowing of the conches by Pandavas and Krishna, and then uncertainty, wherein Arjuna asked Krishna to drive his chariot in the middle of the army, and then that led to bewilderment, 28 to 30th, where Arjuna got really bewildered, confused, seeing his relatives standing in front of him to fight with him, and then he began to give different reasons. 4 reasons he gave in the first chapter of not engaging in the war. That's how the first chapter ends, and then the second chapter begins, where the acronym was Gita, where G, the first 10 verses, talk about the importance of accepting and the qualities of a disciple that can impel him, or that can allow him to take or offer surrender, or take surrender of the spiritual master. And then the next discussion, the very first set of instruction given by a spiritual master to his or her student is, you're not the body but spirit soul. That was a discussion. Then after that, if I'm not the body but a spirit soul, how does my tomorrow look different than today? Then there is a discussion of 2 dharmas, Swadharma and Nitya Dharma, which finally concludes with Arjuna's inquiry. One who has followed the Swadharma and Nitya Dharma perfectly, or have balanced the life following Swadharma and Nitya Dharma, then how does he, or let's say, what is the end result? End result is Atmaram, self-satisfied. In other words, how do I understand who has become Atmaram? What are the symptoms of Atmaram? That is a last discussion of the second chapter. How does he sit? How does he walk? How does he speak? Etc. Like this, a question was asked to Lord Shri Krishna by Arjuna. And when this discussion ends and the third chapter begins, where the acronym for the third chapter was tree, where Arjuna asked a question, my dear Lord, please tell me one thing, tad ekam, tell me one thing that I'm supposed to do. You're supposed to be speaking like I should take Jnana Yoga and also I should follow Karma Yoga. So he's confused what I'm supposed to do. Like that was a discussion where Lord Shri Krishna summarized and established that how Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Buddhi Yoga is the highest and the best way to live one's life in this world. And then Arjuna had a question, my dear Lord, if somebody is not able to perform Bhakti Yoga or the Karma Yoga as you're describing, then what is the opportunity for that individual who's not yet qualified enough or purified enough to surrender unto you? Then Krishna speaks about the yoga ladder. Yoga ladder, in the sense, this discussion will do it later on, but here the rungs of the yoga ladder is, okay, at least begin with Karma Kanda. In other words, follow the practice of sacrifices which are given in the sacrifice, which are given in the Vedas, Vedic scriptures, for every Varna and Ashrama like that. And then Lord Shri Krishna says, if in case you are an Atmaram, yet you should perform your duty. Set an example, because people learn by following example. So here Lord Shri Krishna gives an example of Janak Maharaj, how he was a Karma Yogi, yet he was a perfection soul. And then he gives his own example. Even when I descend, I follow prescribed duties. If I don't have to follow prescribed duties, then I'll become the cause of Varna Sankara. Like that is a discussion, which finally Arjuna concedes and understands that how Karma Yoga is the best. And then Arjuna got a question, my dear Lord, when we hear, when we are in the forum, when we're listening about the subject matter, apparently it makes all sense. But when we walk out, we still act as we are conditioned. Atha kena prayuktoyam papam purushacharat. Papam charati purushaha. By what one is impelled to commit sinful activities, although one knows that I should not do it. That is the last discussion of the third chapter, where Krishna says, Kamesha Krodesha, Rajaguna Samudvaha Mashano Mahapapma Vityanam Iverinam Avratam Nitya Dehinam Jnanino Nitya Verina Rupa Kama Rupa Kante Kama Rupena Kanteya Dushpurena Nalecha Jnano Nitya Verina. Know for sure that this is the eternal enemy, Dushpurena Nalecha, and it can never be satisfied. It has to be defeated, has to be conquered. But how do we conquer when we don't know where it resides? Therefore, Krishna says, Indriyani mano buddhir asya dhishtana uchyate. It is said it resides in Indriya, Mana, and Buddhi. So if you want to control anything, if you want to control or defeat lust, the very first thing is Tasmad Tvam Indriyani Niyama Bharata Sabha. The very first thing you want to do is control your senses. And then Lord Shri Krishna talks about the hierarchy of the sense objects, the senses, the mind, intelligence, and the soul. Finally, Krishna says, ultimately, you have to get rid of this lust from senses, mind, intelligence altogether. How to get rid from the level of intelligence? If our intelligence becomes free from this lust, which means all kind of mundane desires, then it will be easy for intelligence to control the mind and the soul, or mind and the senses, because intelligence is greater than mind and senses. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna at the end of the third chapter says, so one should equip one's intelligence by transcendental knowledge. And therefore, chapter 4 is titled as Divya Gyan, where Lord Shri Krishna will speak to Arjuna about transcendental knowledge. Now, transcendental knowledge doesn't mean whatever has been discussed is not transcendental knowledge. Now, what it means here, Krishna now exclusively will speak about himself. And that is the discussion of this chapter. The acronym for this chapter is PAST, P-A-S-T, where P stands for position of Krishna in the first 10 verses. A very, very beautiful discussion. And then comes how do we apply transcendental knowledge to work. That is the second section, 11-24 verses. And, sacrifices. How do we get transcendental knowledge? The sacrifice is a means to attain to that transcendental knowledge. And one of the greatest sacrifice, there is a whole discussion on different kind of sacrifices, different varna and ashram. But however, a greatest sacrifice which everyone from everyone, varna and ashram are to perform is to give up once or to sacrifice one's false ego. And when one does it, then the process of transcendental knowledge, which is the last section of this chapter, begins. Begins with Tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshantite jnanam jnanana tatvadashina. When one surrenders with all humility to a superior authority, to a spiritual authority. And like that, this whole process continues. So that's a brief introduction. And now we'll take a look from the book, we'll read from the book and discuss from the book if need to be. We'll come back to this.
Which is the last section of this chapter.
If required, then we'll come back to this PPT again. Hare Krishna. So I hope everyone is on the same page and making sense what we're discussing. Let's begin with our discussion on the book itself. Chapter number 4, verse number 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Imam Vivasvata Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivaswamanave Praha Manur Iksvakave Bravet. We'll pay a little bit of attention to the Sanskrit also here. Very beautiful verses, really, really sweet if we look at from a different perspective. Let's talk about it today. Shri Bhagavan Vacha, Lord Shri Krishna said, what? Imam, this knowledge which has been discussed by Krishna unto Arjuna until now, this knowledge, Vivasvate Yogam. Please pay attention to the word. This knowledge is Yogam, the knowledge of yoga. So if somebody says Patanjali Yoga Sutras for the first time gave or delineated the knowledge of yoga, that is not correct. Who first gave the knowledge of yoga is Lord Shri Krishna. So Krishna keeps on repeating the word yogam in this particular set of verses here. So Imam Vivasvate Yogam, I gave this knowledge, Vivaswan, to the sun god. Proktavan Aham Avyam. Proktavan means spoke, Aham means I spoke to the sun god Vivaswan this knowledge. And what is the quality of this knowledge? Avyayam. It is imperishable. It never gets destroyed. Then, what did Vivaswan do? Vivaswan manave praha. Then he gave this knowledge to Vaivasvata Manu. And what did Vaivasvata Manu did? Manur Ikshvakave Bravit. And that Manu, Vaivasvata Manu, gave to his son Raja Ikshvaku, one of the great forefathers of Raghu Vamsha. Like that, Lord Shri Krishna establishes the background or the history of Bhagavad Gita. So that is what the purport largely focuses here. So 2-3 important words in this shloka is, one is yogam. This is the knowledge of yoga, which means connection to the Supreme Lord, and that is what the meaning of what yoga. Second is avyayam. This knowledge is imperishable. It is beyond time, place, circumstances. The message of Bhagavad Gita is relevant for all the time, for everyone. And Proktavahan, and who gave this knowledge? It was given by Krishna himself. Proktavan Aham Avyayam, like that. And through that, Vivaswan, Vaivasvata Manu, and Ikshvaku, and then through Ikshvaku, the king Ikshvaku and Raghuvamsha, this knowledge had continued. And then Krishna says, text number 2. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarishayo vidu sakalane hamahata yogo nashtaparantapaha. Evam, thus parampara praptam. Praptam is to receive. Thus this knowledge is received through disciplic succession, parampara. Imam rajarishayo viduhu. And in this way the Raj Rishis, who are the recipients? Raj Rishis, the best of the kings. Raj Rishis, they would receive it in this manner. However, sakalane hamahato yogo nashtaparantapaha. However, with time or under the influence of time, this knowledge of yoga, yogo nashtaparantama, this knowledge got lost. So here I have 2 questions for all of you. Yogo nashtaparantama. The Supreme Personality Godhead establishes something. How can that, which is a spiritual knowledge, can get lost with time? First question. And second question to all of you is, what does it mean when Krishna says, Sakalane hamahato yogo nashtaparantapa? This disciplic succession or the chain was broken or the knowledge was lost. Any thoughts? Anyone would like to give any clues to it? What do you think about it? Jai Prabhu. Yes, please go ahead.
Probably so it might be because like it also depends on the receiver of the knowledge. How
Not able to hear you well, Jai Prabhu.
is it better now?
Okay, let's see if we can hear you well. Go ahead.
So that might be probably because it also depends on the receiver of the knowledge, how he is taking that knowledge. He might, if he is not.
No, Jay, you fix up your mic. Come back. Not really able to understand you. Sunny Prabhu, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat.
Prabhuji, as it is said in Bhagavad Gita itself that yada yada hi dharmasya, Lord descends when there is breakage of knowledge. So Lord has came to give this knowledge, and
So
this knowledge was broken.
what is my question here?
And this knowledge was broken also by the will of the Lord only, Prabhu. I think this is
Okay.
my thinking.
Yeah, everything happens by the will of the Lord. Your answer is also happening by the will of the Lord. So that is a perfect answer, no doubt about it. But I don't like to deal with philosophy in this manner. I like to deal it in more, so it makes sense for us. We don't want to just say, okay, it's all Lord is doing. So what does it mean? I'll reiterate my question again. First is Sakala Neha Mahato, something established by Krishna with period of time got lost. And what it means, yoga nashta parantapaha, the destruction of this knowledge. What does it mean? These are two questions. And then I'll make a third point why I'm asking this question. Okay. Mother Kamalika, Ayushman Banerjee.
Sorry, Prabhu. Prabhuji, it is mentioned the disciplic succession. That means the duties of a disciple is very important in this case. It might have the disciplic succession. The disciples have somehow not followed that principles which carries the transcendental
Okay,
knowledge
so
and
you're close to it. Yoga nashta parantapa means the message, the true meaning was lost. The integrity of the message was lost. That's what Yoga Nashta Parantapa is. Not that there was no saintly people and all that. And that is why Prabhupada titled his commentary as Bhagavad Gita as it is, which means I have maintained the integrity of the message. And we know the result of it because just like Arjuna was transformed hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita, so does each one of us and many people like us all over the world, their life have been transformed by reading Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita as it is. Okay. Now, the second part of the question here is, how can something which was established by the Lord Himself? Krishna says, Kalosmi. It is Krishna's energy. If it is Krishna's energy, how can it destroy something which is established by Krishna? Okay. Mother Vasha.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I was expecting the first answer, but anyway, second answer, I feel that like Mataji said just now, that the parampara got broken and the message was not clear to them, and people were, they forgot about it because of their forgetfulness. They forgot the message, how to,
Fine,
like
okay.
if one thing is, one message is said to one person in the class, and 10 people are there, you go to the 10th person, you will feel he has forgotten. He will mutilate the whole thing, the message. So that is what happened, and the real message got lost.
Sure. Thank you, Mother. Vaikuntapati Prabhuji.
See, when the carriers of the message start giving the message out, they give their own personal interpretation and for their personal motives. They do that. At that time, the message gets lost.
Correct. Yoga Nashta Parantapa. Now, my point is, which I want to reiterate, how. Goranga, no. Sorry, something happened here. Now, my point here is, how come something which is established by the Supreme Personality Godhead, the function of time is to destroy, right? All of us agree. Now, something established by Krishna, that is the message of Bhagavad Gita, which is transcendental, spiritual, which is not material by any chance. How can it get affected by the change of time? Now is my question. So all of you are kind of addressing the first part of the question. Now my question is on this side. Time, the function and the duty of time is to destroy everything. Now how can that destroy something which is spiritual and that was established by the Supreme Personality Godhead Himself? And when that time, the factor which destroys everything is the energy of that person who has established it. That's what my question here is. How is it? How is it possible? And okay, due to his compassion for us. Okay, good answer, Prabhu. Let me give you another clue here. And so let's see if all of us can think a little bit out loud on this. See, just 500 years ago, somewhere around 16th century, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the late 15th century, the early 16th century, had sent his foremost of his disciples or followers like Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, followed up by Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Bhatta Das Goswami, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, and others, Narottam Das Thakur, and all of these great personalities, Loknath Swami, Bhagar Goswami, you name them, many of them. And one of the important responsibility given to the foremost of them, Rupa Sanatana, was to establish temples. How many of those temples are still surviving? Hare Krishna. Somebody needs to be muted.
Prabhu, can I request your microphone to be kept a little bit above? Because your voice is coming very low compared to others' voice. If you don't mind.
Hare Krishna. Of course not. But this is the standard position where I keep always. So I don't know. It is because of my mic position or something else. Hare Krishna. Is it better now?
No, not really.
There's a lot of background noise also here. Hare Krishna. Okay, give me your transcendental thumb. If it is audible, give me thumbs up. And not well audible, give me thumbs down.
It is audible. It's not just audible, but we have to really be very attentive. Listen to your words.
Okay, so what's happening? Is it different than the previous times? Vaikuntapati?
Yeah, but when others are speaking, it is coming louder. Like the earlier Matajis, when they were talking, it was coming quite loud.
Yeah,
It's normal for me, Prabhu. I don't know.
Okay.
It's coming good for us, not a problem.
Okay. Okay. Fine. What was I saying?
Can I try to answer that question? You were
Yes.
talking about Goswamis and their temples.
Yeah, so the point I was saying, even I just complete that. Thank you. And you can answer that too. Prabhu, you should have your initiated name. Don't mind if I call you with your name there. Always name properly there. So the point is, even those temples were destroyed. They didn't even last it for 100 years effectively because Aurangzeb was right then and there. Even that got destroyed. So what does it teach us? That's the point here. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
It's the nature of material world where, things degrade over a period of time. So someone has to replenish it or, renovate it, something like that.
Okay. So the answer was given in the 3rd chapter itself. We have already discussed. When Lord Shri Krishna descends, he does not fiddle around with the laws of material nature. Krishna says, even I follow the prescribed duties. It's like whatever the laws have been established by the Lord, he's not going to play around with it. Of course, he may do it as he wishes. Generally, he doesn't do that. So the nature of time is to destroy, and everything with time gets destroyed. And of course, we have to make our endeavors, try our best. But fine, whatever happens. If it can be preserved, okay. If not, some of you might be aware of it. Some Prabhupada disciples back in America have created a bunker facility where they have preserved Srila Prabhupada books for a nuclear attack scenario. If it happens to be a nuclear attack, several stories down inside in the ground, they have created a bunker facility so that Prabhupada books will remain preserved for the next 10,000 years like that. So anyways, just a point I wanted to make for all of you, for all of us to reflect on it. I'm not going to add more point to it, but we need to be realistic about life. The laws of nature functions. Yoganashta parantapa sakalane mahata, Lord's energy, but yet over a period of time it got lost. It got lost because of various reasons. That's okay. The integrity was not maintained, but something which was transcendental sound vibration established by Lord, which means Lord does not interfere. The due course of time, it has to happen. It happens like that, and when it happens, Lord comes back again and establishes again. That happens like that. Fine. So that's a point, Sakala Neha Mahata, which is described, and that also establishes the significance of Parampara system. How can we receive the message of Bhagavad Gita or spiritual science? Through Parampara. That is established by Lord Shri Krishna himself. So we cannot understand outside of it. That's the point here. And now, text number 3. So Arjuna pondered, my dear Lord, you spoke to Vivaswan, great. It got destroyed. Sorry to hear about it. But why are you telling me all this thing? What I got to do with it? So Krishna says, yeah, good question. Let me tell you what you got to do with all this. That is text number 3. Sa evayam mayate adya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam ye taduttamam. Sa evayam mayate adya. Today, by me, yogaha, once again, the knowledge is called as yogaha, prokta, being spoken, puratanaha, a very ancient knowledge. Today, that same science, the what is known as yoga, the very ancient knowledge is being told by me, sa eva yam mayati adya, today to you. Why me? Arjuna may ponder, why my dear Lord me? Why not somebody else? Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam ye taduttamam. You are my devotee, you are my friend. Bhaktosi me sakha cheti. Now let me ask a question to all of you here. Krishna calls this knowledge as rahasyam. What he calls? Confidential knowledge. So if you have something confidential, whom would you share with? What should be the attribute of that person in one word? No, what is intimate and all that? What is that one word? Okay, Sudhir Prabhu. Just give me one word. What would you be looking at that person?
Sorry, Prabhu, I forgot to.
No problem. Rati Manjari Mataji. Quick.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Humility.
Humility. Okay, Kumareshan Prabhu. Unmute. Prabhu, unmute. Okay, Mother Anjana. What happened? Devotees are not able to unmute themselves or what? You got muted again. Mother Deepthi, yes. Boliye?
Trustworthy.
Yeah, how do you define trustworthy? Kamalika.
Yes, who is surrendered, fully surrendered.
Fully surrendered. How do you quantify who is fully surrendered? Sunny.
One who has given his heart to Krishna.
Okay, Hari bol. All the best. अपने दिल का पता नहीं, दूसरे के दिल का क्या पता होगा? To Krishna. Good answer. Okay, Mother Anjana, if you can speak up now. Unmute.
Devotee.
Okay, great devotee. How about if I say non-envious? Yes?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Foremost is it should be non-envious. He's my well-wisher. So why I'm talking about this thing, the same point comes in the Bhagavatam also. Very beautiful verse. Can you even pick up my first canto? A very beautiful verse. I'll just pull out in a short while. And that was being spoken by Sukdev Goswami to Parishit Maharaj, which describes that how Krishna was willing to become the messenger for Pandavas. Krishna was willing to become a charioteer for Arjuna. Krishna was willing to become the protector. What not? Recently we had Raksha Bandhan. All of us would know the story of Raksha Bandhan, from where it all started with. One day Lord Shri Krishna cut off his finger and the blood was oozing out. And Draupadi then and there, she ran and she tore apart the part of a sari and took a piece of cloth and tied around the finger of Lord Shri Krishna. At that time, Lord Shri Krishna said, Draupadi, because you have served me like this, I promise you, I will protect you in all situations, circumstances. And that is the incidence from which this whole Raksha Bandhan, this whole ceremony of Raksha Bandhan started. And then when Draupadi was in crisis, Lord Shri Krishna appeared, provided all that sari and all that. That's the whole concept of Raksha Bandhan from it all began with. So here, Krishna is saying, Arjuna, you are Bhaktosi me sakha cheti, which means you're non-envious. Whatever I'll tell you, you will always think for my good. You're never going to do any harm to me. Therefore, Prabhupada right in the introduction says, the message of Bhagavad Gita is meant to be read by devotees of the Lord. And what it means, all of you were correct, but I was just bringing out because this anasuyave is repeated many times in Bhagavad Gita as well as in Srimad Bhagavatam, which means non-envious. So similarly, in our relationship with our mentors or with our peers or with our spiritual master, we have to attempt to become their well-wisher. This whole part of humility, this whole part of surrender, there is no way to measure it. But you can check for yourself within your mind how much we are becoming their well-wisher. Well-wisher means we want to serve them, we want to assist them, or we still have that competitive mentality. Is getting a point? Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Therefore, in that particular very beautiful verse of the 18th chapter, this verse comes, 18th chapter, yeah, when Parishad Maha goes out, there Prabhupada writes in the purport, why Krishna was so malleable. Malleable means he was willing to take any responsibility for Pandavas. Why Krishna was so malleable? And Prabhupada writes a very beautiful point. What was so special with Pandavas? Because Pandavas were also so malleable to Krishna, which means they were willing to do anything that Krishna would tell them. They were willing to follow. Ye yatha ma prapadyante is a classic verse of this particular chapter. And that concept even applies in our relationship with each other. Ye yatha ma prapadyante. So in our relationship with our spiritual master, or let's say for Diksha Guru, Siksha Guru for that reason, or for devotee community at large, but let's focus on Shiksha and Diksha Guru here in this case. As we surrender to that degree, the reciprocate means to that degree we receive their mercy. It all depends on our willingness to agree. To the degree we're willing to agree, to that degree we receive the grace. And to the degree we are stuck to our own independent ideas of doing things, to that degree will be called as, less cooperative and whatnot. And to that degree we refrain ourselves from the flow of mercy. So here Krishna chose Arjuna. Why? Bhakto sime sakha cheti, which means he is non-envious of the Lord. That's the reason Lord Shri Krishna chose. And he decided to give him the rahasyam, the most confidential knowledge. And what is the nature of that knowledge? Rahasyam etad uttamam. This is the best of the knowledge. This is the best of the thing that I am giving you. All right. Arjuna heard all this. And now comes text number 4. Arjuna thought. What Arjuna thought? Let's take a look at the verse, then we'll take a look at it. What Arjuna thought. Arjuna said, Arjuna vacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha. Aparam bhavato janma. If I'm correct, my dear Krishna, I'm 89-year-old. This is the time of battlefield. Krishna and Arjuna both were 89-year-old. And between both of them, there are only few days of difference in their age. So there is only few days of difference in our age. And you are saying that you instructed this knowledge to sun god Vivaswan, who instructed to Vaivasvata Manu, and Vaivasvata Manu instructed to Raja Ikshwaku, and Raja Ikshwaku had appeared at the beginning of Treta Yuga. And you are 89-year-old man standing in front of me. Treta Yuga happened at least 4 to 7 lakh years ago, which means you are so young. You came after sun god. How do I supposed to understand that you gave this knowledge to sun god? Is that clear? How do we understand? How do I understand that you spoke to sun god? Second point. Katham etad vijaniyam tvam adau proktavaniti. Katham, how etad vijaniyam, understand. Tvam, you, adau, in the beginning, proktavan, you spoke to sun god Vivaswan. So 2 points about this verse. Prabhupada makes very first point is Arjuna, and that's my question to all of you. Okay, let's read the translation. So we are on the same page, because I just gave you Sanskrit meaning. Prabhupada translation. Sun god Vivaswan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? Now the Godhead, or God, is identified with 3 qualities: omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. Now, what is that? Omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipotent is Mahavishnu, from whom everything comes, right? These are the three qualities of three Vishnus actually. Omnipotent is Mahavishnu, from whom everything comes. Then omniscient, all-knowing, then Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And then omnipresent, Kshirodaksha Vishnu as Paramatma. So, how much they are? Can they be a little softly spoken here? Hare Krishna, sorry, I'm just getting distracted. There's a lot of noise outside. Okay. What was I saying? So, Arjuna asking this question to Krishna, it looks like a challenge to the divinity of Krishna. Now, Krishna is the same omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent personality. So, why Arjuna is challenging the divinity? Are we on the same page? Do you see this is a doubt on the divinity of Krishna, yes or no? By asking this question, hey, how do you know? And we are saying Krishna is omniscient, omnipresent, omnipotent, because these are the feature of the three Vishnus. And those three Vishnus have come from Krishna only. Apparently from Balaramji have come from Krishna. So how many of you agree and understand this, that Arjuna is raising a serious doubt about the divinity of Krishna? Yes? If you understand this, so my question to all of you here is Arjuna really raising that question about the divinity of Krishna? Does Arjuna does not know who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Then why is he raising this doubt? Srila Vishnu Chakrati Thakur, Baldev Vidyabhushan, both in their commentary. Prabhupada doesn't focus on this point in the purport. Both of them makes this point in the purport. Here, apparently, it seems like Arjuna is kind of treating Krishna as a human being. See, if you have taken birth, so you are not eternal. Because if you're eternal, there's no question of taking birth. And what is the point? A second point, as I don't remember anything, how do I believe that you remember everything? Which means you cannot be omniscient as a human. Getting the point here, na? So here the question is raised, or Acharya says, not that Arjuna is not clear about the divinity of Krishna, but it's for our sake. It's just to actually give an opportunity to Krishna to speak about himself. Because this question leads Krishna to speak about his divinity. Because the question is raised about divinity of Krishna. And now from text number 5 onwards, Krishna will speak about his divinity, which is kind of a pep talk. An elaborate discussion will happen from the 7th chapter onwards. So now, question be raised about the divinity. So Lord Shri Krishna will speak. Text number 5. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Bahuni me vayati tani janmani tavacharjuna tani aham veda sarvani natam veda parantapa. Bahuni, many. Bahuni me vayati tani janmani tavacharjuna. You and I have appeared many times. The difference between you and I is tani aham veda sarvani. I know about all my previous lives. Na tvam veta parantapa. However, you do not know about your past life. One of the previous appearances of the Lord and Arjuna was Nar Narayan Rishi. Arjuna does not remember, but Krishna remembers. And this becomes I would say, the first verse in so far in our discussion in Bhagavad Gita, where there is a clear distinction between the Lord and Jiva. This is another verse which debunks Mayavad theory. Everyone is same. You getting it? So here Krishna says, although I have appeared, you have also appeared before. Tani ham veda sarvani. I remember everything. Sarvani means everything. Natum veda parantava. But you do not know. So this whole idea of Mayavadi or Mayavadis, that when Brahman interacts with goodness, then Devatas are born, and that's what their human form is. The point is, even if that is the case, then they should not remember, right? Because nobody remembers when they're in this material who they are as Brahman. It's not that only Devatas say they are Brahman and Jivas forget about their identity. So how come Krishna, even if he is also like human like us, who has appeared in human form, then how come he remembers everything but the Jivas? So here it is clear distinction between the Jivas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Second thing, Bhauni me vayati tani. I have appeared in many forms. I have appeared as Varadev, Vamanadev, Narasimha Avatar. I appear in literally every living species. So Arjuna could ask a question. Vishnu Chakra Thakur raises this. Arjuna can ask a question. My dear Lord, if we appeared as Narnarayan Rishi, so why have you not appeared in the same human-like form? That also proves the divinity of the Lord. The second point of difference between living entity and the Lord is the living entity appears karmanadeva naitrena jantu deho utapatte. The living entity appears because of his past karmic activities under the influence of daiva netrena. The living entity is inserted in the womb of a particular living entity. But when it comes to Krishna, Krishna will speak in the next verse. Atma Maya Sambhavami. I appear because of my own sweet free will. So that is a point here mentioned. We'll discuss about how Krishna appears in the next verse. But here in Prabhupada quotes two very beautiful verses from Brahma Samhita describing about the divinity of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Prabhupada writes and quotes from Brahma Samhita, Ramadimoti Shukala Niyamena Tishan Nanavataram Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Sambhavat Paramapumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. And Brahmaji is saying that the Supreme Personality Godhead appears in many, many forms like Rama, Narasimha, and he also appears in his original personality like Krishna. And then a philosophical verse, Advaitam Achutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha. Very beautiful verse. This is more philosophical here. Advait. Dvait means duality, which means the body is different, the soul is different. Advait, which means the body and soul is same. There is no difference. Achyutam, infallible. Anadim. Anadim means without beginning. Anantarupam, who has unlimited forms. Adyam, the original. Purana Purusham, the oldest. Navayovanam, despite being the oldest, is Navayovanam. He is the youngest. Or he is always youthful. Brahmaji is talking about. Vedeshu dullabha dullabham. Vedeshu adullabha means one who has read Vedic scriptures yet cannot understand the Supreme Personality Godhead unless Atma Bhaktau, unless one surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord. Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Like this, Brahmaji speaks. This Brahma Samhita prayers, there is a confusion about when Brahmaji spoke. Brahmaji spoke this Brahma Samhita prayers not during Brahma Vimohan Lila. That's not the time when it was composed. This Brahma Samhita prayers were composed at the beginning of today's Brahma's day, when Brahmaji woke up, and then he found himself whirling all over the lotus, all over that whole ocean. That's the time when he got the message that he should perform tapa. And when he meditated, and then Lord appeared to him. And then when being empowered by the Lord, he saw the truth, he saw the whole creation. I'm giving in a very short synopsis here. And that's the time he saw the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. No, he didn't see the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Acharya's mentioned when he saw the navel from which the lotus stem was coming, he saw that, but in there he saw our Lord Shri Krishna. He saw Gopala. And when he got the darshan of Gopala, that's the time this Brahma Samhita was composed by Brahmaji. And that's where Ishvara Parama Krishna. Because if he's seeing Garbhodaksha Vishnu, why would he call Krishna? He should not have called that. So, and that is what is being described here. So, like that is being described about the nature of the Supreme Personality Godhead. And that is a point Prabhupada emphasizes about the words like Achyuta, Advaita, others in the purport. So, now text number 6, very beautiful verse where Krishna speaks. Again, speaking about his divinity and the difference between the living entities and the Lord. Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavami atmamayaya. Ajaha, I am unborn. Although, api san avyayatma. Avyayatma is another quality of the Supreme Lord, which means without deterioration. Bhutanam ishvaropi san. So please take a look at the sentence here. First, Krishna says, Ajopisan Avyatma. I am unborn. So if Krishna would have to only say Ajopisan Avyatma, that alone would not prove the divinity of the Lord. If Krishna says, I am unborn, that is not enough to prove the divinity of the Lord, because those who are residing in Brahman, they're also unborn. Yes? Because they're not going to get any material, they're not going to appear in the material world again. Is that making sense to all of you? Ajopisan Avyatma, Krishna says, I am unborn. I am without deterioration. This is not enough to prove the divinity of the Lord, because the self-realized souls who are Brahman realized, who are residing in the Brahman, they are also Ajopisan Avyatma. They are also unborn and they are also without deterioration. Therefore, Krishna says the next line. The difference between those self-realized souls and me is Bhutanam Ishvaropi San. I am the Lord of all the living entities. Bhutanam Ishvaropi San. Now, why do I appear or how do I appear? Arjuna, you appear because of your, of course not to Arjuna, we appear because of our karmic reactions. But Krishna says, I appear Prakritim Swamadrishtaya Sambhavami Atma Maya. I appeared Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya Atma. By my own internal energy, I manifest. Now, if in case you are familiar with Sanskrit, if I use the word Prakriti, what comes in your mind? Which nature? So, Prakriti, Swam, and this is one word which Mayavadi captures. Prakritim Swamadhisthaya. They say, see, Prakriti, Krishna is also born under the influence of modes of material nature. Getting the point? So, what Prakriti means here? So, there are two kinds of Prakritis. Hare Krishna. Hari bols, thoda chal raha hai. Or I'm just making a little more familiar you all with a little Sanskrit, and because that's how it becomes a little beautiful here. Or is it become a little complicated? Prakritim. Now, Prakriti, you understand it is material nature, and this is how they capture the word, and they say, see, Krishna also appears through material nature. No. Prakriti has two meanings. Krishna has two Prakritis, Yogamaya and Mahamaya. What is the function of Yogamaya and Mahamaya? Both have same function, more or less. For example, Yogamaya potency, which functions in spiritual world. How it functions? Mother Yashoda one morning was feeding the breast milk to Krishna. She fed the breast milk to baby Krishna, and then after Krishna drinking the mother's milk, he yawned. He opened his mouth and he yawned. And then Mother Yashoda happened to look inside the mouth of the baby Krishna, Lala. And she literally fainted, because when she looked inside the mouth, she saw the whole universe. She saw the whole universe in the mouth of Krishna, and Mother Yashoda literally fainted. And then after a few minutes, she forgot what she saw. After a few minutes, she forgot. And you remember the mud eating pastime also? Similar thing happened. So what Yogamaya does? Yogamaya hides and reveals the divinity of the Lord. Yogamaya hides and reveals the divinity of the Lord, whereas Mahamaya, it hides the divinity of the Lord and it reveals the false nature. It reveals the false nature, which means this Prakriti. It makes us believe as if this temporary creation is eternal. It presents falsehood. It makes falsehood appear as factual. That's the difference in the job profile. So Yogamaya hides Krishna, Mahamaya hides Krishna, but Yogamaya reveals Krishna also, but Mahamaya does not reveal Krishna. It reveals falsehood as factual. So when Prakritim Swamadhishtaya, if anyone has to argue and debate with the Sikh Prakritim, it is mentioned, well, both are Krishna's energy. Krishna can appear through any, even if you take Prakritim as Mahamaya for that reason. However, yet to conclude, Krishna says Atma Maya. I appear from my own energy. Sambhavami Atma Maya. Like that. That's the point is mentioned here. So Prabhupada emphasizes on that only, that how Krishna's body is not different than his soul, He appears in his own self-made body, and the difference between Lord's body and ours is being described more or less here in this particular puppet. And now Arjuna has a doubt. Arjuna has a question. My dear Lord, but when do you appear? How do you appear? Okay. But when do you appear? And that is answered in text number 7. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharatah abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srajamiham. When do I appear, Krishna? When do I appear, Arjuna? You asked me a question. Yada yada, at which, whenever glanir bhavati bharata, whenever there is a decline in religion, abhyutanam adharmasya, whenever there is an increase in adharma, tada means at that time, atmanam, atma means myself, self, sajami, aham, I appear. So I appear whenever there is a decline in religion and when there is an increase in religion. Arjuna is confused. Prabhu, you are the master of Yogamaya, Mahamaya. You said you are the cause of unlimited incarnations, or you're the source of all incarnation, to be put in precisely. Why you have to appear? If you are appearing to fix dharma and adharma, if, for example, you're living in a Pune city and outside on in your street or society, there's a robbery, do you expect the chief minister of the state to come and resolve it? Maybe you may expect, but at least you would not accept prime minister to come and resolve it. Yes or no? So Arjuna has a question, my dear Lord, but why you have to appear? If it's all about fixing certain policies, you can send one of your representatives. And this is where comes the most beautiful verse of this whole Bhagavad Gita. Not Bhagavad Gita, there are many beautiful verses. One of the most beautiful verses of the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita that establishes the greatest compassion and magnanimous nature of the Lord. Please pay attention to this verse. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samsapanathaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So all of us are aware, Krishna says, I appear to please my devotees. And as a function to please my devotees, I take care of some demons also. That is my side business. Just like delivering Nal Kuvera and Manigriva was not the decided pastime of the Lord that day. What was the decided pastime? What was the main pastime of that day? Damodar Lila. All of you agree? Damodar Lila was main pastime to please the devotees and the residents of Vrindavan. Nal Kuvera Manigriva was a side pastime. ठीक है, हो गया तो कर देते हैं, उनको मुक्त कर देते हैं. But Lord was, when Nal Kuvera Manigriva even got delivered, Lord did not even look at them. Krishna was not even looking at them because they were not devotees of the Lord. Lord delivered Nal Kuvera Manigriva because it was a desire of the devotee, Narad Muni. So Lord did not even look at them, yet delivered. So imagine Krishna coming and killing demons doesn't make sense. When at least Nal Kuvera Manigriva were not demons also. They were still Devatas, close associates of Shiva and son of Kuber. Yet Lord did not even look at them. So killing of Kamsa, killing of Jarasandha, Duryodhana, etc. for that reason, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaks, that's not the purpose of the Lord. The purpose of the Lord, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and both Baldev Vidyabhushan writes elaborately on this verse. The purpose of the Lord is to enact his pastimes. And for the purpose of enacting the pastimes, Lord appears in various forms, in different forms. Why he wants to do that? Why he wants to perform his pastimes? So that conditioned living entities like us, when we get an opportunity to hear about him performing leelas in different ways, maybe we might develop an attraction towards him. The whole purpose of material creation is to reform our independent mentality, to reform our envy. And to fix that, Lord appears not once. Sambhavami yuge yuge. Can you imagine? Let me give you a case study here and see if you connect to it. Imagine you are a parent and you have a son, or for that reason a daughter, either way, and they have become disobedient to you. So let's say they have gone to college and they have stopped calling you, there is no interaction, and they have graduated from the college, they've got a job, you have no idea where they have got a job. They have just entirely forgotten about you. To a situation it comes where now they're even willing to deny your existence and relationship with you. If you happen to go in front of your son and daughter, they say, we don't know who you are. Our parents don't exist. We don't have any parents. This is nonsense. So my question to you, imagine a couple of years have went and now they have come to a situation where they're rejecting you. You don't exist. I don't have any parents. How many, of course, this will be a very hurting. How many of you say, first of all, will be deeply hurt about it? Who we cared and provided all of our life? Please raise your hands. हरे कृष्णा. कुछ लोग तो समाधि में नजर आ रहे हैं. दोनों हाथ उठाओ थोड़ा तो पता चलेगा कितने जाग रहे हैं. Okay. So what was I saying? Yeah. So okay. Now imagine we all agree that you feel cheated, hurt, betrayed, and whatnot. Now the second part of the question here is, how many of you will continue from your side to provide for them? Or you say, nothing can be done. He doesn't want to listen to us. Why should we still provide pocket money to him? Why should we purchase a house for him? Okay, just give me a thumbs up and down if you agree with this. How many of you say, if you have been disowned by a son like this repeatedly for a prolonged period of time, or daughter, then you will say, let him live on his own. He and I, or son or daughter, whatever, we have got nothing to do with each other. I'm not going to spend my hard-earned money in protecting him or providing bangla, a car. It's not that you, on his birthday or her birthday, you're going to send him a new car or something. How many of you say, we'll probably give up on him? Okay, you don't even accept that we are parents. You even say that we don't exist. Hell with you. Of course, I'm not saying really hell with you, but damn with you. We got nothing to do with you. How many say you might come to this understanding? Please raise your hand. Hare Krishna. कोई रो वो तो नहीं रहा ना, ज़्यादा इमोशनल तो नहीं हो रहे ना, ये hypothetical story है. Okay, but mind you, this is not a hypothetical story. I'm so sorry to say, but that's a fact. That's how we have behaved with our Supreme Father. Please understand that. That's how we have behaved with Lord Shri Krishna. Birth after birth, life after life, to an extent, we have rejected his identity and his presence by saying that God does not exist. And can you see his compassion and love towards us? Sambhavami yuge yuge. He says, how much ever you reject me, you throw me away, I will never leave you. He says, I come again and again. Not only he comes again and again, he creates creation again and again. Why creation is created? For the purpose of reformation. Imagine after this 311 trillion and 40 billion years, we would have taken millions of lifetimes, or billions or trillions of lifetime, which means we had this many opportunity for reformation. Yet if you have not got reformation, then Krishna could have thought, no hope with this case. Let's close my business. Why am I wasting my time? Can you imagine how much management Krishna has to do? Mahavishnu, then expand to Garbhodakshina Vishnu, then expand Shirodaksha Vishnu, then produce Brahmaji, then instruct Brahma what to do, then tell him whole Vedic Shastras, and then appear in sense Devtas, and then tell him to, procreate, and then time and again there is some crisis in material world, he has to again appear to fix the crisis. So much management, yes or no? Yet he never says, I had enough with these living entities. So deep and profound is our Vedic philosophy defines character of Krishna or the Lord like this. An Abrahamic tradition is white and black. You accept, done. If you don't accept, our Father will put you to hell forever. But look, what is the definition of eternal Father here? Who is just not going to leave us at any cost. So this is the follow-up system of Krishna. Now come for some practical action. Similarly, we should also learn about some follow-up technology from Krishna. Never ever leave a conditioned living entity who has come once to Krishna's door and let him walk away. If Krishna can do so much incessant follow-up of a living entity, how much follow-up we should do it? That's the second part of it. But the first very important part of this question was, the compassionate nature of the Lord. That's what it means by Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. Why I appear? So, two things I discussed. We conclude with this verse here. Two things. I appear in different forms to enact different pastimes to attract the heart of conditioned living entity. And I don't appear once, I appear many times. Sambhavami Yuge Yuge. Why? Just to attract the heart and the mind of the living entity. And for that, we did a case study to help you understand that how easy for us to give up. But actually, here, those betrayed us. We are the one who have betrayed actually the Lord life after life. And yet, Lord is not willing to give up on us. And like this is being described, and then finally comes the text number 9. We're coming to the conclusion of the first 10 verses. Text number 9. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti swarjanaha. So, evam yo veti tattvataha. One who knows tattva. What tattva? There are two tattvas being discussed. One in text number 9, and the other tattva is discussed in text number 6. Ajo pisan abhyatma. That's also tattva. What is that? Lord is unborn and Lord never deteriorates. One who knows that I am unborn. There's no question of me taking birth. Now see, even a living entity does not take birth. There's no question of birth, right? There's no question of death. Na jayate mriyate va kadachin. So first of all, understand the soul never takes birth. So tattvata means ajopi san abhyatma, never deteriorates. Second tattva is janma karma chame divyam. The Lord's so-called appearance and karma, the activities that he performed, including his Ras Leela, is all transcendental. Which means we cannot understand it from the prism of mundane reality or the mundane specs. So that is the point. So what happens? What is the result? One who understands the divinity of the Lord's nature, Tyaktva deham punarjanma, after giving up his body, naiti mameti swarjuna. Naiti mam eti swarjuna. Which means he will never take birth again here into me. And this is the first time here where Krishna is actually indicating about the presence of spiritual world. So there is always a first time, right? And this is the first time which is happening where Krishna is indicating. Am I correct? Or is there before any verse where Krishna indicated about spiritual world? This seems to be the first time Krishna is saying, Naiti mameti so Arjuna, you attain to my abode. So a hint is given which will be elaborated in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Like that has been mentioned. So Prabhupada writes a very beautiful purport here. Prabhupada says, there are two kinds of transcendentalists, personalist and impersonalist. Impersonalists, this Jnana yogis and Ashtanga yogis, my goodness, how much hard work they have to do to attain moksha. And devotees sing, eat, dance, your way back home, back to Godhead. Hayana. So simple for devotees to go home, back to Godhead. Kehne mein aasan hai. We'll all get to know at the end of life where we ended up. But philosophically, it is damn simple. That's the point here. But for the impersonalists, they have to try so hard. You'll read about this whole impersonalist journey back home in the second canto, first chapter and second chapter, how difficult it is. And Prabhupada is making a point, it's so simple. Just if devotees, somebody takes to the service of the Lord, serves the Lord with faith and knowledge, that way, at the end of the life, they go back home, back to Godhead. And then comes the 10th shloka, the concluding shloka of this discussion, where in 10th shloka, Lord Shri Krishna says, Vitaragabhaya kruda manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavamagataha. Giving up raga, bhaya, krodha. Raga means material attachments. Bhaya means fear of losing those attachments. Krodha, when you don't get your attachments. Giving up raga, bhaya, krodha, manmaya mam upashitaha. And then, once you give up, then you'll be able to surrender your mind unto me. You'll be able to take my shelter. Otherwise, mind is agitated. We all have that experience. Imagine if after 15 minutes you realize your smartphone is missing. How many of you agree? Hell with Bhagavad Gita class, where is my smartphone? You're gonna wander around and move around, look for your smartphone. Yes or no? अरे रिकॉर्डिंग पड़ा है ना, बाद में सुनते रहेंगे. किसने चिंता करी है? So you'll walk around, No. So man maya mam upashrita. Only then you can ashrita, take my shelter. And then Krishna says, Bahavo jnana tapasa puta mad bhavam agataha. Bahava means many people. Jnana and tapasa, on the strength of tapasya and knowledge. Putaha, which means God purified. And what happened? Madbhavam agata. Again, second time it's mentioned, Madbhavam agata. They come to my abode. So, my question to all of you here. How would you give up raga, bhaya and krodha? Krishna says, give up raga, bhaya and krodha. What is your strategy for giving up raga, bhaya and krodha? Yes, Kumar Ashan Prabhu. Hopefully your audio will work this time. Please unmute. Bolo Prabhu, you are unmuted.
Yes, Prabhu. Only when they surrender to Lord, like they can overcome the lust.
That's the whole question. Krishna is saying, Man maya mahapashita, when you give up, you surrender fully. So, okay, good attempt. Okay, Madarati Manjari, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, attachment to the Lord's lotus feet through his name, form, and
Okay,
other
raga
paraphernalia.
means, so raga, okay, let you finish it, then I'll say that. Good, okay, go ahead. What about bhaya?
Bhaya, fear, we can use the fear of Maya being attacking us. So,
Okay.
and krodha, anger, is like Hanumanji uses his anger.
Very nice, perfectly. Hey, did you hear this? Because you exactly spoke my words.
Prabhuji, I think you discussed this in some lecture in the
Okay,
past.
because you exactly spoke my words.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay,
Hare
okay.
Krishna.
So, this is the verse which was a foundation of Srila Prabhupada's that phenomenal vocabulary called as dovetailed. How many of you have heard the word dovetail in Prabhupada's lectures? The only time before Prabhupada I have ever heard dovetail was a dove soap. I never knew what is dovetail in my dictionary. I had no idea about it. And when I heard Prabhupada said dovetail, so I thought maybe there is some new brand of dove, a new product of dove with a tail to it or something. What is this dovetailing all means? Then later on I realized Prabhupada meant, of course, seniors told me, I understood through that way, or I maybe checked the dictionary. Dovetailing means engaging it, changing the object, doing the same activity. This is that verse here. So this is the concept described by Vishnu Chakra Thakur and Madhya Vidya Bhushan and their purpose. So raga, how do we give up? We'll discuss this point more elaborately in Nectar of Instruction text number 1. Prabhupada talks about it. But it is not in our potential to give up something or to accept something. We are too insignificant. Although it's a different thing, we consider ourselves to be too significant to be able to do something, but that's not the reality. The whole concept is dovetail. We cannot give up desires. We cannot become desireless. It's against the nature of the soul, which the impersonalists strive very hard to become. So rather than desiring for some sense objects or some sense gratification, desire for Krishna. Machita madgata prana bodhiyanta parasparam kathiyam tascha mam nityam tushyanti charamanti cha. When the two devotees come together, what do they talk about? They talk about Krishna. And they relish Krishna katha, parasparam, and they mutually benefit each other by remembering about Krishna. So being in the association of devotees, we develop this desire or attraction towards Krishna. So raga, develop attachment to Krishna, desires to serve Krishna. How do you begin with that? How do you do so? Sadhu Sangha, Adho Shraddha Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. So Shraddha phase is done. Sadhu Sangha is very important. We should regularly take Sadhu Sangha. And that Sadhu Sangha, Majjita Madgata Prana happens. And then in that Sadhu Sangha, we get instructions, we get service opportunity, Bhajana Kriya, where we get to know how we can engage ourselves in devotional service. And as and when we get more and more opportunities for devotional service, to that degree we develop attraction or attachment towards Krishna. That is how we can get rid of our attachments, material attachment, raga. Bhaya, as Mother Rati Manjari very rightly said, we should be fearful of deviating from the principles of bhakti or bhakti scriptures, or not following the instructions of Guru Maharaj, or fearful of offending Vaishnava. That is bhaya. That is again dovetailing bhaya. How do you dovetail krodha? So if anyone does Vaishnav Ninda, we can become angry at them. But somebody does yon Ninda, remember Tranadapi Sunichena, Tharorapi Seshna Charaja. That's a Vaishnava attitude. Nectar Devotion talks about it. We've discussed that, isn't it? How do we deal with blasphemy? When somebody blasphemes you, somebody blasphemes devotee. That's how we do it. So now, again, look at the beauty of this verse. How many of you agree, if our mind is still attached with a lot of material desires, have a lot of material desires, and we have fear of security and whatnot, and we are angry because somebody did not respected us, etc., like that. How many of you agree, next day when you have to sit and chant, you will remember everything but Krishna? Okay, some of you may still be transcend this stage. We do have a mixed audience here, but largely most of us would be like, our beads would only be moving because you have taken a vow. Otherwise, there is no attention there. So you understand this raga, bhaya, krodha, manmaya, upashitaha. So it cannot happen unless we have learned to give up. I would say learn to dovetail our raga, bhaya, and krodha, as we discussed. And then manmaya mam upashita. Why manmaya mam upashita? There's a very beautiful verse in Ishopanishad which I would like to quote to all of you. Very beautiful verse. And we'll talk about that in relation with manmaya mam upashita. Because after that, Krishna says, what Krishna says here is, one second, let me just open Veda Vesh. Krishna says in the next line, Bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam agata. They get purified by performing the austerity and knowledge of Krishna. And austerity means prescribed austerities like Ekadashi Vrata, etc., which means bhakti practice largely. So why would somebody, if manmaya mam upashita, just one remembers Krishna or takes shelter of Krishna, what is the magic that happens because of which the person gets purified? What's that magic? And that is something to speak about who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And the answer is, where is the book? Here is the book. It's given in the 8th verse of Ishopanishad. I'm just opening this and it's over here. Where do I share it? In the Zoom, right? In the Zoom. One second. And I hope you all are able to see my Vedavis here. And this is the verse. Sapariga shukram akayam avranam ashnaviram shuddham apapavidham kavir manasi paribhu swayambhu yatha athayato arthan vayadatha chasvatibhya samabhya. I'll just focus on two things. Shuddham and apapavidham. Ashnavira means without veins. That's not my part of discussion here. Shuddham and apapavidham. Shuddham is antiseptic. Apap siddha means prophylactic. This is the verse. So what does it mean, shuddham? Shuddha means antiseptic. When you have an injury, you apply a medicine. That is called as antiseptic. It is the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, both shuddham and apapavidham, which is antiseptic and prophylactic. Antiseptic means when you have a material disease, it will purify you if you remember the Lord. But you may say, "Hey, what if I get distracted again?" No, it's just not possible. Apapavidham, prophylactic. If you continue to remember, like for example, now this is again the subject we need to have develop faith on this point. Just like Krishna says in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, what is that verse? Krishna says, even if somebody has performed the most abominable activity, what's the line it begins with? No, that's the next one. Well, how does it begin with? 9th chapter. It just skipped my head right now. Where it says, Apichesu duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyak vaivasito hisa. Very interesting verse. I'm just quoting these two verses in relation of this Shuddham apavidham. Now Krishna says, apiche suduracharo, not durachar, sudurachar, even if he has performed the most abominable activity. But bhajante mam ananyabhag, or bhajate mam ananyabhag. But if he is engaged in my devotional service, Krishna tells Arjuna, sadhu reva samanteva, he should be considered sadhu. And Arjuna didn't like it. He said, how can I consider him sadhu? He has performed the most abominable activity. And then Krishna says in text number 31, Shipram bhavati dharmatma. He very quickly becomes dharmatma again. How does he become dharmatma? It's because of the nature of the Lord. Shuddham and apapavidham. If somebody keeps in touch, somehow if somebody continues with the devotional service, there is no question of his fall down. Even if somebody has got distracted, therefore Prabhupada will become very angry if somebody has done a blunder and the other devotees go and publicize those blunder, because of which the person would felt such a sense of guilt that he could just never come back to the community. You would remember those conversations that Prabhupada would have. Why Prabhupada was so angry about it? Because now we have destroyed his whole spiritual life entirely by kicking him out of the sadhu sangha. Even if he had committed a mistake, he had become fallen down, that's okay, but let him continue to perform devotional service. Why? The nature of Krishna is Shuddham Apapavidham, antiseptic. It will heal that wound of because of caused by the material desires, and prophylactic. Prophylactic means just like COVID vaccination. All of us have got COVID vaccination, and some of us might have not even got a COVID. The COVID vaccination, precautionary medicine is called prophylactic. You take a precautionary medicine so you don't get a disease. So similarly, the nature of Krishna, if you keep in touch with Krishna, satatam, always, then you will not get affected by material desires. Like that has been described. Therefore, it is said in text number 10, Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Putamad Bhavam Agata. Therefore, the living entity gets completely purified of all their material desires and they come back to me. Hare Krishna. So here at this point in time, I will pause our discussion here because it kind of became a little bit of monologue today because I was a little excited about these discussions. I went on speaking non-stop. Any questions or any comments? Because we're going to take a break now. And after that will come about, so this is the transcendental knowledge that Krishna wanted to speak here about Divya. I'll just give you a brief recap of what we have discussed. The history of Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge given by Krishna to sun god, and establishment of parampara. How do we understand? Through parampara. Why Krishna is speaking to Arjuna? Because the parampara system was broken, the integrity of the message was lost. So Krishna decided to re-establish it. Why Krishna chose Arjuna? Bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam te uttamam, because he was non-envious of the Lord. So that is, we're going to talk about the concept now. As we approach the Lord, Lord reciprocates. So Arjuna was totally malleable to the will of the Krishna. Therefore, Krishna chose Arjuna and gave him the rahasyam, the highest knowledge. However, Arjuna asked the question, Lord Shri Krishna, how do I know? You spoke this knowledge to somebody who is way, way senior to you. That was not a question that Arjuna asked him, that as if he knew the divinity of the Lord, but it was to give an opportunity to Krishna to speak so that we get to know about the divinity of the Lord. And what is the divinity of the Lord? Krishna comes Sambhavami Atma Maya, by his own energy, by his own will, and in any form that he wants to take. Bahuni mein, what is that verse? For text number 5, Bahuni me vayatitani janmani tavach Arjuna. So Krishna and Arjuna have taken many, they have appeared many times, but Krishna remembered everything, but Arjuna doesn't remember. So that's the difference between living entity and the Lord. Lord knows past, present, future, but the living entities only know about their present life. Lord's form is avyayam, indestructible, never deteriorates, but living entities form deteriorate. They go through birth, death, old age, and disease. Krishna, when he was 89-year-old, even 125 years old, he was still 16-year-old boy, as we read in 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So why does Krishna appears? How does Krishna appears? Atma Maya. When does Krishna appears? Whenever there is a decline in religion and increase in irreligion. Why do you have to appear? You have so many energies. Then Krishna says, I appear. Why? Paritarnaya sadhana. Just for the pleasure of my devotees and to attract the heart of the conditioned living entities. How many times he appears? Not once. He appears yuge, again, and again. That's His classless compassion and love towards us, to each one of us. And what is the advantage if anyone knows about this divinity of the Lord? Janma karma chamedityam evam yaviti tatvata tyaktadhyam punajanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna, he never takes birth again in this world. But how does it possible? How do we understand the divinity, or how can we develop that attraction for the Lord? For that, Vita Rag Bhaya Krodha. We have to give up Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha. And there is a concept of dovetailing, as Prabhupada will talk about it. Why? Because then only Manmaya Mam Upashrita. Then only we can actually absorb our mind about Krishna. Although we have externally put up the dress of a devotee, but many of us still remain very self-absorbed. Even in spiritual life, it's always only about I. We still continue to do I. That happens for a long, long time. And then we spoke about why. Why should we do Manmaya Mam Upashrita? Why should we absorb our mind in serving Krishna? Because the nature of Krishna is Shuddham and Apap Vidham. Antiseptic, prophylatic. The more we remember Krishna, absorb mind in Krishna, we but naturally get purified of all our material desires. Not only become purified, we develop immunity towards material affection. For example, if somebody has to bring food cooked in onion and garlic, no doubt about it, all of us will throw it away. Yes or no? That is what means having an immunity to material desires. Hare Krishna. That was a discussion. Sorry if it was a long monologue. So any questions or comments now? I have no clue if you all are able to understand anything out of it, but I am happy about whatever is going on. Yes, Mother Medhavli. हाय नाम प्रभु, वो ऑलरेडी छुट्टी पे चला गया लगता है. ठीक है, बोलिए. Mithai Pranpu, I made you a co-host also, so you can help people unmute. Yes, Mother Medhavli.
Am I audible, Haribol?
You are so audible. You should start speaking question now.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I wanted to ask you, like you mentioned, Lord Vishnu, omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. You said that it is Karnadakasaya Vishnu, Garbhodakasaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakasaya Vishnu, respectively. But I thought, that is just a function that they do, but all of them are omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent, isn't it? Because except for the four qualities, Vishnu is equal to Lord Krishna himself, isn't it?
Largely, this is the point which our acharyas mentioned, because, of course, they all are there, but a particular quality which is prominently manifested. And this concept of this omnipotency is largely discussed in the concept of Abrahamic traditions, Western theology. Our definition of Bhagavan is Aishwarasya Samagrasya Virayasya Yashasha Shriya Jnanam Cha Vairagyascha Sanam Itin. What is that? Whatever the last line goes on like that, right? So this concept is more in the Abrahamic tradition, like that. So in that context, this has been described: Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Okay. Hare Krishna. Mother Satya. So Mother Satya has question about absolute truth.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranams.
Yes, Mother.
Prabhuji, in verse 4.6, while discussing that, you mentioned something about self-realized souls also not being born, being unborn, and so what does that mean, Prabhuji? Like in Brahman, you have mentioned as well, but we had a discussion some time before that those in Brahman would fall down. So does that?
Correct. The point is, somebody may challenge. We're trying to also kind of debate and defeat Mayavad kind of thing. Ajopisan Avyayatma. So the understanding of Mayavadis is, once you go back to Brahman, you're there forever. So just on that point, somebody says, oh, you say, oh, Krishna is unborn. Our self-realized, our Guru is unborn. He went back to Brahman. And once you go back to Brahman, the idea is Brahman is not by definition of Brahman is Avyatma. Never deteriorates. So what is the difference between Krishna and them? So Krishna says, Bhagavan Bhutanam Ishwaropi San. I am the Lord of all living entities. So is your Guru Lord of all living entities? No. That's the point is being described. This is from the commentary of Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur again. He makes a point like that. So here again a distinction has been made. Of course, Krishna is not making like that. I mean, Krishna has spoken this, but Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is breaking this verse in that way just to tell us, if somebody may challenge, okay, if Krishna is Brahman, our Guru is also Brahman, what is the difference? Yes, your Guru might have become Brahman realized, but he is not Bhutanam. He is not the Ishwar of all living entities. But Krishna is Ishwar of all living entities. Fine? That's okay.
So, Prabhuji, actually, the thing I was confused about is like, if they are unborn, so how does that relate to them falling down to the material world again?
Oh, Mayavadi says this is a Leela. they're performing their Leelas by coming down to this world. So they don't have any answer for this. Why do they come down? But the point of discussion begin with Aja means Brahman. I am Brahman. In fact, you and I are Aja. We are unborn because soul never takes birth. So that way, to forget about Brahman. The soul itself is Brahman. We are unborn. And then Ajopi Sanavayatma never deteriorates. These are actually the features of the soul. If not anything, this is a feature of the soul. Forget about the self-realized person. It is true for you and I also. But what's the difference between us and the Lord? Bhutanam Ishwaropi San. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Vaikuntapati Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu.
Is it sound okay? Or you were able to, or was having difficulty?
I'm not able to hear your voice. The earlier it's coming very loud. Anyway, it's okay. You were saying it's a monologue and all this thing, but actually you made it very inspiring and very interesting today's class. And that has prompted me to ask you a few questions. Actually, no. Okay, now let's get into this. Text 5, where he says, many, many births you and I have passed. I can remember all, but you cannot, O subduer of the enemy. It says this. Now, of course, we as human beings, we are not able to remember past lives. But there have also been persons, great devotees of the Lord, who have been able to remember. Like Nadamuni is called Trikalanyani. Vyasadeva is called Trikalanyani. And they say there is no, and we have heard Prabhupada's lecture saying that you can also become Brahma. And Brahma is a position, of course, but Brahma, he is also a Trikalanyani. So how are they, how does it match? I mean, I'm just trying to fit in.
In Srimad Bhagavatam, all of them are also called as Bhagwan.
Yeah.
Bhagwan Narada, Bhagwan Shiva, right? They also call. So the point here is, they also develop the attributes similar to the Lord. They are almost at par with the Lord, of course, not same as the Lord. Therefore, Srila Vyasa himself is calling these great personalities in Bhagavatam as Bhagwan. So they have come very, or in fact not come, they have realized their eternal nature. They are completely self-realized. So when they are in that situation, they are entirely freed from the modes of material nature. There, at that point of time, in one sense, we being a part and parcel of the Lord, we also have the same strength and all the properties of the Lord. So the devotee is able to remember past, present, and future. And of course, would it be that everyone would remember? There is no categorically answer for that. But maybe for the sake of service or something, that certain devotees may remember based on their responsibilities like that. But the same personalities, even Vyasa himself calls them Bhagavan. So there is a huge difference between these personalities and us. Us means the conditioned living entities. So here discussion largely is being done between the conditioned living entities and the Lord. That's the way.
So can we give a slightly modified interpretation, if it is okay, saying that when Arjuna and Krishna were talking at the time, just like Arjuna treated Krishna like a human being and asked a question, like that, Krishna also answered Arjuna as a human being, he answered. They treated Arjuna as a human being and he gave that answer for the human being.
I mean, this is, I'll repeat what Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur and Baldev Vidyabhushan speaks on this regard. because at times their commentary is more or less similar. Let me make a point of just how their commentary and how Srila Prabhupada commentary looks. Their commentary focuses largely on Sanskrit meanings and breaking and analyzing that. So what I'm speaking largely is from the commentaries of Baldev Vidyabhushan, Vishwanath Chakravarti. Now, Prabhupada is more practical oriented because the people for whom largely he wrote didn't have the sense of understanding Sanskrit only. And it was a case of an emergency. Therefore, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj, when once he met Prabhupada at Kumbh Mela, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj makes a point. So when I asked Prabhupada, what's next? Prabhupada said, I'll write commentary on Bhagavad Gita. So His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, Prabhupada, you have already written. And the Prabhupada said, oh, hundreds of commentaries can be written. It's a very famous pastime. So this is, every writer and author is speaking to a certain audience. For example, what I'm speaking to you, I would not speak to a course prior to this, what we call as Gita Essence. Gita Essence was a more structured, flow-based storyline. I kind of make it as a storyline of how the Bhagavad Gita is going on. Here, because the students are Bhakti Shastri, so Brahmanical training, I'm giving a little bit of more emphasis on Sanskrit now. We become familiar and we get a little more deeper understanding of how the flow is happening, how the psychology of each of the participant in the conversation. So it's always according to the audience you're speaking, or you're writing for. So Prabhupada always kind of wrote for the Kali Yuga standard fellows, have no time, very dull-headed. Prabhupada will come to the conclusion right away. And what is the practical application? Like that. So which was practical application is surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna. That was the main focus here. So this is all kind of, so what Vishwanath Chakravarti and Baldev Vidyabhushan in this regard, regards of, what is going on between Arjuna and Krishna. In the very first chapter, they establish that Arjuna was not captured by Mahamaya, was captured by Yogamaya. Mother Yashoda was captured by Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. The quality of Yogamaya and Mahamaya, I hope this we should remember, not to confuse. Yogamaya hides and reveals Krishna. Mahamaya hides Krishna and reveals falsehood as truth. So Arjuna was put into that condition because Krishna wanted to establish the science of Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna himself says in this chapter. So whatever is happening through Arjuna is happening directly through the will of Krishna, what Krishna wants Arjuna to speak. Arjuna is not here in the frame that Krishna is like this because Krishna is like this. Please understand, let's take a look. Krishna and Arjuna standing on the battlefield. If you see on the practical grounds, even if I am so worried about the future generation, my dear Lord, you speak a message which will help the future generation. I would say, okay, let's finish the war. Then we'll sit and talk, na? Why to just worry about the future generation when we are not very clear about our own life right now? So this very category looks like that this is all inspired by Krishna, and this is how they explain. Krishna is inspiring Arjuna, and that's the reason they both wrote in this regard for this verse, text number 5, that why did Arjuna ask this question? Why is he challenging the divinity of Krishna? Arjuna asked this question to inspire Krishna to speak about divinity so that people at large get to know who Krishna is. So this is not mentioned that Arjuna is seeing Krishna as human or Krishna is seeing Arjuna as human. Like that has not been mentioned by them. It's all happening under the will of the Lord. And Prabhupada also writes in the first chapter, it was the desire of Krishna to speak Bhagavad Gita, and therefore Krishna had covered the intelligence of Arjuna.
Yeah. So going to the next question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
I got 2 more questions.
Yes, please. Yes, please. It's a very important discussion actually. For the first time, this is happening about Bhagwan and Jiva.
Yeah, right. So I'm going back to the same question what Satya Mataji had raised on that. I had the same doubt, and you are given a clarification, but I'm still not fully onto it because, all throughout we have been only hearing that from Prabhupada's lectures and from all the Guru's lecture, all the Maharaja's lectures, that anyone who goes to Brahman have to come down.
Correct.
They have to take a birth, and then only again they can go back. Now,
this is little clarification. they don't say that they have to come down. That's our interpolation. The point is, those who go to Brahman, if they don't make further advancement, the nature of the soul is to be active.
Yes.
Then they would find voidness there. And because the nature of the soul is active, if they are not able to move upward, then they have to come down. Because if we are not ascending, we have to descend. It is not that whoever is in Brahman has to fall down. They have an opportunity from Brahman also to ascend. That's the principle.
In Brahman, there is no activity. How can they ascend? They
get association of bhaktas, impersonalists. Sukdev Goswami, the four Kumaras, they were all impersonalists.
Yeah, but then they didn't reach the Brahman, no. They were impersonalists, but they understood, when they came to know, they all became impersonalists then.
Now the Brahman, okay, so we are saying that they go and settle in the Brahman cloud. So if Yudhishthira Maharaj at the end of Mahabharata war had to go to Yamloka, Duryodhana was not sent to Yamloka. And then Yudhishthira was asked, why did I go? And then Yamraji said, so that seeing your darshan, all the Yamloka vasis would get purified and get delivered. If the devotee can go to Yamloka, why can't he go for a stroll in Brahmaloka? So that's also possible. But the point is, either you go up or if not, you come down. Just like a yogi goes to the Himalayas, become bored, then he comes down to the city.
Okay. All right. So going to the third point, Prabhuji, is regarding this text 10 about this Vitaraga Bhayakrodha. You know what you said. See, Raga was clear. For me, this Bhaya and Krodha are not clear to me still. Because it says giving up. The translations being freed from attachment, fear, and anger.
Correct.
So being freed from attachment. So this is okay, from material attachment, you get freed by attaching yourself with Krishna. So once you start attaching with Krishna, automatically material attachment will go. Now regarding the Bhaya, what type of Bhaya are they talking about? Are they talking about the Bhaya of the material world? Because that Bhaya is there for everybody very naturally. Is Krishna talking of that type of Bhaya? Or is he talking of some other Bhaya? Yeah.
So giving up Bhaya, if your question is what kind of Bhaya, so it all refers to your material consciousness. So Raga means material attractions, and that material attraction will lead to both Bhaya and Krodha. So here we were discussing how can I give it up, or what's the process of giving up. We cannot give it up, we don't have the strength, but we can dovetail. So the nature of the soul is to have desires, so let's have desire for serving Krishna. And then I spoke about how can we have desires, sadhu sangha bhajana kriya. Then Bhaya, as we get this jnana and tapasa, which is the outcome of sadhu sangha, and we get more knowledge, so then we understand, rather than we should be afraid of 10 offenses, not to commit the 10 offenses, the holy name, Vaishnava, etc. And Krodha, Prabhupada writes in the NOI text very categorically, there also it is mentioned, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. In the definition of Krodha, Prabhupada writes, Krodha is one quality which cannot be destroyed. It can be dovetailed, as Hanumanji did, as Arjuna did. You know, there has to be an anger when you're fighting. Anger towards what? Hanumanji had an anger towards Ravana because they had kidnapped the best of the devotees of the Lord. And so does Pandavas an anger towards Duryodhana because they had insulted the best of the devotees of the Lord, Draupadi. Like that, we utilize Krodha. So we utilize Raga, Bhaya, Krodha in that sense.
Okay. Can it also be, is it also possible that once you develop attachment for the Lord, you know, so when you develop attachment for the Lord, very naturally attachment for material activities and material things reduce.
Correct.
So if that is reducing and all these three are related, and Bhaya comes for us only because we are scared of losing anything of the materials.
Correct.
You know, so if that attachment is dovetailed to Krishna, automatically Bhaya will go away and Krodha will also.
Krodha. So I have a question. Haridas Thakur was on his deathbed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and met him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Haridas Thakur, your health is not good. And what did Haridas Thakur say? My dear Lord, I have not completed my rounds. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, you don't need to complete your rounds. So what would you call that?
Attachment for the Lord there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But the Lord himself is saying, yet Haridas Thakur is saying, no, my dear Lord, I have to follow my vows. Do you see? Of course, the quality of bhaya is not visible as we see from the material prism. But the devotees are so strict in their practice, they would not in any situation not follow their prescribed rules and regulations because they fear I may become entrapped by the material energy again. And the krodha that's a little separate thing, as I said, that cannot be given up, but that has to be used if in case any aparadh happens towards Vaishnavas, then we utilize it there.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Hare Krishna. Oops, sorry. What did I do? Okay. So this is 1:42. I was thinking of ending a class at 2 o'clock today. So is it okay if we just don't take a break? Because I have a lot of things and it's a really hectic week because of this whole Janmashtami celebrations. Even before 10 minutes before the class, I was thinking I'll cancel the class. Somehow I thought we'll have it. So if you can just continue the discussion for 15-20 minutes more and 2 o'clock we can end. Or some of you we need a break. We can have a short 5-minute break. What's your call? Or we just conclude at 2 o'clock.
Maybe
Okay,
Prabhu, we can continue.
So let's do this way. Those who says, okay, we have 20 minutes, let's continue. Give me a thumbs up. And those who needless have to take a break, no problem. You can just take a quick stroll and come back. Okay, fine. Okay, let's move forward. Text number now. So divine knowledge, transcendental knowledge, those subject has been discussed largely. Now the discussion begins on applying transcendental knowledge from verse number 1124. I didn't have a chance to show PPT, so PPT will upload on the website. You can go through this. The flow and all the discussion is made in PPT largely. So text number 11. 11, 12, 13 particularly addresses 3 fundamental errors in our understanding. So let's take a look at it. And then I see some hands are up of Jagat Bandhu Prabhu Madhamithavani. We'll take it at 2 o'clock. Is that okay? We'll just quickly have this discussion, set some premise for it, and then we'll open for discussion again. Text number 11. Very, very beautiful verse. This is too good. And I'll tell you, my experience and understanding of this verse is being a part and parcel of the Lord. We also act in the same way. As you surrender unto me, I reciprocate. How many of you agree? Yes or no? This gives me an evidence that I'm definitely part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stateva vajamiham mamavatman vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. Something, first of all, I'll just make it a small point in terms of, let's say, an education perspective. Mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashaha. For the first time, a same line has been repeated twice. So this line has been repeated already in the 3rd chapter, verse number 23. If you want, you can just go back in your Bhagavad Gita. I'm just trying to, this is like a little bit of educational thing, not in terms of philosophy. Text number 23. Yadhiyam navarteyam jatu karmani tandrita mama vartmanu vartante manushya sarvashaha. It's the same line being repeated. So what's going on here in this verse? Ye yatha mam prapadyante. So the very first doubt people have, which you will hear often here in India, maybe in the West also they can. You take any path. You follow any path, karma path, jnana path, ashtanga path, bhakti path, whatever pantha you follow, everything will come to the same conclusion. How many of you have or find this statement of mine familiar? कुछ भी करो, एंड में सब कुछ एक ही है. No, That's not the fact. And this is the verse that debunks that. Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapadante. If you approach me with a desire claiming me to be impersonal, you will get only impersonal realization. If you approach me, mama vartmanu vartante, nobody can desire anything independent of Krishna. Everyone follows. Here, mama vartmanu vartante means everyone follows laws of Krishna only. Even those Mayavadis who are dedicating their life to reject Krishna, even what is the source of their knowledge? What is that verse? Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matah smriti jnanam apohanam cha. So from Lord, the intelligence, the forgetfulness, remembrance all comes. Tam stathaiv bhajamiham. And so does I rest. If you want your faith to be strengthened in demigod, chapter number 7 talks about it. From me comes that faith. I give you that faith. That's the point here. So, if somebody has a desire to become only Brahman realized, become a demigod worshipper, or become a Bhuta worshipper, or become a Bhut himself or herself, whatever it is, it all gets fulfilled by the mercy of the Lord. The Lord reciprocated that manner. Okay? And if you want to completely reject the Lord, Krishna will give you the intelligence also to reject him. That's the point here. Okay? Fine. Prabhupada quotes this verse, Akama Savakam. Now go to text number 12. Second big fundamental doubt people have is the demigods and the Lord is one and same. This would be elaborated largely in 7th chapter, but 12th verse makes a brief point about it. Second misnomer is Sab ek hai. All devtas are one. Krishna says nothing doing. Kangshant karmanam siddhim yajanta iha devataha shipram hi manushe loke siddhe bhavati karmaja. Man in this world desires success in fruitive activities, therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, man get results from fruitive work in this world. Have you noticed any Asurik pravritti, any person with an Asuri pravritti will never approach Vishnu? Or put it around, other way around. You look at most of the prominent upasak of Brahma and Shiv are all demons. If you carefully study Mahabharata, it's very interesting. When during COVID times I was studying this Mahabharata, you see any character, most of the character who had some demonic propensity, they all were worshippers of Shivji. For example, Ashwathama was born by the blessing of Lord Shiva. Dronacharya had worshipped Lord Shiva. Jayadratha had worshipped Lord Shiva to get a blessing to, withheld. He wanted to worship Shiva to get a blessing to kill Pandavas, particularly Arjuna. That never happened. Shivji said, I already fought with him. I have a direct experience. Not possible. Even I didn't kill him. So anyways, that's not possible. So like that, you see all these characters. The point here is, the verse says, these people go and approach devatas, and devatas quickly fulfill their material desires. And Prabhupada makes this purport, Krishna versus demigods. And I'll just make one point, pause it, and then go to the next verse here. We'll take this verse elaborately in the 7th chapter. The relationship between living entity and the Lord and living entity and the demigod is way different. The relationship between Jiva and Krishna is like father and a son or a daughter. Whereas the relationship between Jiva and the Devata is like a client and a shopkeeper. To put it in simple words, if a client goes to a shopkeeper, let's say a teenage boy goes to a shopkeeper, says, here is 50 rupees, give me a cigarette pack. What do you think the shopkeeper will do? How many of you say the shopkeeper will give a cigarette pack? Give me a thumbs up. So when Ravana, Vrakasur, Hiranyakashipu, with the full knowledge of Brahma, knowing that what these demons are going to do with that blessing, did Brahma say no to them? Brahma fulfilled to the extent what he could fulfill. But what he could not give, he said no, eternal life. But these people know that we cannot go to Vishnu. Bada khatarnak case hai iska. Such a dangerous person Vishnu is for them. They so much fear Vishnu. They know that if we go to this fellow, this fellow will destroy our material desires only. And there is no guarantee even if he fulfills. But that's a point, that's a part of difference. But Krishna does fulfill. Therefore, Prabhupada in the previous verse quotes, Akama sarvakam va moksha kamadhariti tivrena bhakti yogena yajate purusham param. Dhruva Maharaj is a classic case for that. So that's the point. Okay. So God versus demigod is being discussed. So there is a difference. And the 13th verse, in the third big misnomer, caste system is exploitative. How many of you heard of it? Hinduism at large, those of you who have traveled abroad, have lived abroad, Hinduism at large in the world is criticized only for one thing: caste system. Time and again, they bring up this whole issue of casteism, exploitation of lower class, exploitation of lower class. So the misnomer, caste system is exploitative. But no, Krishna says no. Text number 13. Chaturvarnyam maya shashtam. Shashtam means shashti, creation. Chaturvarna, I created. Chaturvarnyam maya shashtam. How does it function? Guna, karma, vibhagasha. Vibhagasha means divisions. The division of this varna is based on your guna and karma. Guna means modes of material nature. So Brahmana predominantly function in mode of goodness. Kshatriya predominantly function in mode of goodness and passion. Vaishya functions predominantly in mode of passion, ignorance. And Shudra functions predominantly under mode of ignorance. Guna, karma, vibhagasha. Tasya kartaram apimam vidhi akartaram avyayam. Although I am the creator of the system, you should know that I am yet the non-to being unchangeable. So this is a division of the society, which is a scientific division of the society based on one's guna and karma. Now, there are two kinds of division of society, based on science and based on faith. We live in the times where we speak, we are believers in science. Unfortunately, we practice faith. I'll repeat that point again. We live in a time of such a bigotry or such a double standard where we say we believe in science, but we practice faith. Why? Because our social structure and system is not science driven, it's faith driven. We're getting the point here, right? How it is faith driven? If I believe in Krishna, then I'm Hindu. If I believe in Allah, I'm Muslim. If I believe in Christ, I'm Jesus. But that is not the Krishna science-based system, the Varnashrama. Based on guna and karma, your nature, your propensities, and the modes of material nature prominent on you, you're qualified, categorized as Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Now, what is the social significance of this social structure? The social significance of the social structure is if every living entity in this world has karmatmakam buddhi, which means they cannot live without working. Now imagine if a Brahmana, just for the sake of roti, kapda, makan, has to perform a duty of a Kshatriya or a Vaishya. For example, say Brahmana has to perform duty of a Vaishya, where he has to do cheating, lying and business. Can a Brahmana be ever happy? Now don't tell me today's Brahmanas are very happy doing that. I'm saying those who are originally Brahmana, can they ever be happy? No. Agreed? Similarly, a Kshatriya has to perform Brahmanical job, even he cannot be happy. And that is the reason why there is so much social disconnect in the society today and dissatisfaction, large-scale dissatisfaction. People are so dissatisfied with their professional life. How many of you have met people and know people who are professionally dissatisfied? Okay, almost 100%. Now I can dare to ask the second part. How many of you are professionally dissatisfied? Okay. So Hari Bol, you are a wrong fit into the professional life that you are in. That's not according to Varna. That's the whole thing. So because of this social disconnect, there is a lot of material entanglement. Please understand that. If you're professionally satisfied, you don't need theme park. You don't need theaters. You don't need pubs and bars and the naked dance bar to relax your mind. We are so frustrated, therefore we depend on external stimuli to relax our mind. Imagine our forefathers. Did they live life simply? Yes or no? They had their profession. They made less hue and cry as today's generation. It's just because of this. So this whole it's a big discussion. Maybe we'll take some more points next week. But that's the whole thing. The irony, the only point that I want you to remember from this concluding verses, the irony of this today's world is we say we believe in science, but we practice faith. But we say we believe in science and we practice science. That is called as Vedic science. That's the point here. And the faith-based system has given terrorism. Faith-based system has given abortion. Faith-based system has given all kind of adultery, cheating, bigotry, and whatnot. So because in one society there was a divorce does not mean the marriage institution is at flaw. Because at one point in time, the exploitative nature of certain people, they exploited this Varnashram system doesn't mean Varnashram is wrong. The foundation of Varnashram system is Seva, Brahmana serves Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Kshatriya serves Brahmana, Vaishya, Shudra. Everyone serves everyone. That's the foundation of Varnashram. With that, I will pause here. And we have completed up to 13 verses. And from 14th verse onward, we'll take it next time. So 11, 12, 13, we address 3 misnomers. Not all path takes to the same place. And second, demigods versus Krishna. And text number 13, what is that? Caste system is not exploitative. It is a people who exploit it, not the system. Hare Krishna. With that, we conclude here for our discussion today. In case if there are any questions, we can open the forum for discussion now. Hare Krishna. All right, Mother Yagya, let's begin with you.
And with Pranam, Prabhuji.
Yes.
My question is from the first sloka of this chapter, Transcendental Knowledge, where Lord says that Imam Visvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam.
Yes.
And we discussed that this transcendental knowledge is beyond time, place, and circumstance. But when we were discussing, we just came across that this knowledge is meant for non-envious people. So I just wanted to understand, what about the envious people, and like if this is, it's like beyond the time, place, and circumstance, why do we have this condition of it's just meant for non-envious and not the others who are also like who are in the sinful life?
So if I understand your question, this knowledge is meant for non-envious, like that. So foremost is, let me ask this question to all of you here. How many of you, when you read Bhagavad Gita for the first time, felt, why Srila Prabhupada is repeating again and again, surrender to Krishna, surrender to Krishna? Isn't he talking too much about Krishna here? How many of you felt that? Please raise your hands. Hey, Haribol, 200% haath upar jana chahiye. Has to be there. You know, because from the very first purport, if you read it, Dhritarashtra Uvacha, there is nothing about Krishna. Their purpose is surrender to Krishna. And in the beginning, depending on your level of consciousness, you feel like, okay, relax, man. Why are you inserting Krishna everywhere? And there are some videos these days on the YouTube which talk about how Prabhupada have inserted Krishna here and there and there. So, envy means I want to be that. I cannot expect somebody better than I. And in that mindset, if you hear about the glories of other person, how would you be able to digest? And the person will end up committing more aparadha. He will not be able to answer. And the best person is, or best category of people are Mayavadis. They're giving their commentary of Manmaya Upashrita. Can you imagine what commentary they would be giving? Whose shelter will we take when Krishna is saying Manmaya Upashrita? Krishna is saying Sarva Dharman Parithyajam Mam Ekam. I mean, I am illiterate in Sanskrit, but I can tell you what this word means. Itna to I have understood by Prabhupada's grace. What is the meaning of this statement? And these Mayavadi scholars, God knows what commentary they write. This is what, through their perverted vision, they make an altogether different understanding. You surrender to something within you, without you, God knows to whom they are surrendering only. Like that, they talk about that. So, how do we fix it? And the third chapter talks about it. We discuss that. The devotees of the Lord are more compassionate. I mean, of course, there are two things. As a devotees, we keep a distance from the envious souls, but for the ignorant, innocent people, we try to give Krishna's mercy. We give them prasadam and everything. And there's a way of filtering and all that, those kind of people. And devotees of the Lord in general are more compassionate. And that's the nature of the devotee. And that strength, the compassionate nature strength, is coming from Srimati Radharani. Because you asked this, maybe I can just conclude this whole discussion by making a point. I'll make it very short. I'll not go into details of it. Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, but he is not addressed as Namo Mahavadanyaya. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is addressed as Namo Mahavadanyaya, which means more merciful than Krishna. The question is asked, if Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, then how can Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be more merciful than Krishna? Answer 1, Acharya says, because he is Krishna. So Krishna being more merciful than Krishna is not an objection. First answer. Second answer, Krishna is being more merciful as Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because Krishna has appeared in the mood of Srimati Radharani. Radharani is the foremost devotee of the Lord, which proves the devotee of the Lord is more compassionate than Krishna. Therefore, Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is more compassionate. All right? And that's from where the grace of compassion flows down. Hare Krishna. Yeah, guess your question is over, right? You can lower your hand now. Our Jagat Bandhu was there. He's not there anymore. ठीक है. Okay, Mother Medhavni, and then we go to Vaikuntapati Prabhu. Yes, Mother. Unmute.
I'm not able to unmute. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, first and foremost, I want to thank Vaikuntapati Prabhu. I think some of those questions are, some things which I could not even think of. So, my question is arising out of his question and what you answered. So, first and
now,
foremost,
Vaikuntapati Prabhu would answer your question. So, that credit
whoever
goes to
answers is
Vaikuntapati
fine.
Prabhu. I'm adding him on the screen here now.
The stage is yours, not mine.
No. It's not about being my stage or somebody else's stage. Yes, Mother, go ahead. You have Prabhu on the stage now. He inspired you with the question, so let him answer the question also.
So,
Yes,
heartfelt gratitude to you, Vaikuntapati Prabhu. I mean, I don't think I can even think on these lines. So, I'm even treading on these lines because of you.
Haribol, you have
So,
one
Prabhu,
line more to speak. Question,
okay. So, Prabhu, when Vaikuntapati Prabhu asked about how Bhaya can be dovetailed, right? You mentioned the example of Haridas Thakur. How Haridas Thakur, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, that you need not chant your rounds, he was afraid that he might fall down if he does not do his rounds, and he wanted to get committed to the vows that he has taken. So, I wanted to understand here that how can a devotee, in spite of having the confidence and the protection of the Lord, feel that he might fall down if he does not perform his sadhana, because the sadhya is already attained, isn't it? So how can a devotee feel that way when he's already in that level? That's what is my question.
Amar Jivan Sada Pape Rati. Who wrote this song, Mother?
Narottam Das Thakur?
Bhaktivinoda Thakur. What does he write? I just gave the one line. I don't want to go further into it. He says, my life is filled with nothing but sin. Amar Jivan Sada Pape Rati. Not filled. Rati means attracted. This is not a song written by some conditioned living entity. So we need to study the life of our acharyas to understand the psychology of a pure Vaishnava. That way you'll get more depth into the the question that you're asking about how a devotee thinks like this. All right? Hare Krishna. Yes, Vaikuntapati Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, I'm just going into this text 12, about this men in this world desire success in fruitive activities and therefore they worship the demigods. Quickly, because men get results from fruitive work in this world. And in that context, what you explained about, people don't approach Lord Vishnu because they know that Yamara sab kuch le lega. So that fear is always there, so they don't go. It's fine. But Krishna also tells in 7th chapter, text 16, where he's talking of Chaturvida Bhajate. He talks about that Janaha Sukrito Arjunaha. Artho Jignasu Artati Jnani. He's talking of those four types of it. And in that, if we take this Artho and Artharti, if we take that, both of them, it's very much connected with the fruitive activities and material activities. How do we reconcile these two verses?
See, in second canto, Sukdev Goswami speaks in the third chapter. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama dhari viprena bhakti yogena bhajati purusham param. If you don't have desires, you have all the desires, you would desire
And
moksha.
a bit louder, Prabhu.
Oh, sorry. Akama, if you don't have desires.
Yes.
Sarva kama, if you have any desire. Moksha kama, if you have desire for liberation. Who should you worship? Lord Shri Krishna. Now, the verse that you quoted, Chatur Vidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukirtano Arjuna.
Yes.
So there, this Sukirtano is very important. Sukirtano means a pious soul.
Pious souls.
Artho Arthati Jigyasu Jnanicha Bharata Sabha. Why Krishna calls, see, let's say Ravana, they were also Artho Arthati, desirous of material gains. Same with Hiranyakashipu, for anyone for that reason, you see, all of them. They wanted mystic power, wealth, and whatnot, they wanted them. But Krishna would not call them Sukirtino. Why Krishna calls them Sukirtino? Sukirtino only refers to those who surrender to Krishna. Now, why it is those who go to Krishna? Because in nectar devotion, we read, there has to be certain amount. Of course, bhakti doesn't depend on piety. But piety is one of the factors which brings you to that level of understanding of Krishna. There's a certain amount of piety. For example, when Krishna appeared, for example, before Krishna had to appear, so much massacre happened. So many young kids were killed. And the reason was, let the sin of Kamsa come to the place where my descent becomes meaningful. Where I descend, Glanir Bhavati Bharata, that amount of sin happens. So Sukirtano, when Krishna says, refers to those who come to Krishna. Only they are Sukirtano. They are pious living. And therefore, in the 7th chapter, verse number 28, it is said, Yesham Tvanta Gatam Papam. Who has got freed from all their sinful activities and reaction, only then they can fully surrender into me, with a fixed determination. So, for example, Prabhupada distributing Krishna Prasadam for what? He is creating their piety. Prabhupada engaged in them in chanting Kirtan. Prabhupada those days used to have 1 hour Kirtan. The beginning program was 1 hour Kirtan only. If anyone is not listening to Prabhupada, they are asking Prabhupada will take Kartal and start Kirtan. That was a Prabhupada's standard formula that time, which was meant to purify their consciousness as much as they come in contact with Krishna. Shuddham apapavidam, as we discussed about it. Now, this is not a mundane piety, this is spiritual piety. Bhakti Sukriti. But that is needed for a person to be able to qualify oneself to be able to accept Krishna. For example, a hog. You make a butter halwa, the hog would not like it. Hog is not qualified for it. So that qualification, that's how Sukirtan is mentioned. Now here, these people, those who go to Devatas, according to Krishna, they are not Sukirtina. So they are going to Devatas for their fruitive desires and their karma kandas, and they continue to struggle with the repeated birth cycle, old age and death, if they follow karma kanda.
Because when we say pious activities, when we study Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and also Ravana, they were all masters of all the religious activities.
Correct.
All the Vedas and everything. They knew exactly in and out of everything.
Correct.
So and Ravana used to recite so much of Vedas, and he was considered to be a Brahmana at that time.
He was son of a Brahmana. Both Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they both were sons of Brahmana. Best of the Brahmanas.
Yeah. So they were sons of the Brahmanas, and they had that full knowledge of the scriptures completely they had. But in
Vedeshu dullabadhullabamatma bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. We read that, right?
Yes. So yeah, they had all that knowledge, but still, in spite of that, how is it that their mind was diverted from this. Why I'm asking this question is because in some way or the other, I believe I also have that Asuric bhavas in many ways. So how do we get out of it and make sure that we are in the right path?
Okay, I'm not going to make a comment on you here, but I'll make a comment on this Vedavad Rathis, who were Ravana's Hiranyakashipus. Second chapter talks about it. Traigunya Vishaya Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjana, Nirdvandva Nitya Sattvaso, Niyoga Shema Atmavan. So Vedavad Rathis are being discussed. They are very well learned in the scriptures, but they are karma kandis. Just like Yajnik Brahmanas, Krishna sent a personal messenger, yet they did not give prasadam to Krishna. But the ladies, they were simple-hearted. They just did it. And then they repented later on. So this is actually a very beautiful question, I would say. There's a huge difference between knowledge and wisdom. Yesterday we celebrated Balaram's appearance day. When Garga Muni gave him the name, the very first name Garga Muni, Garga Samhita talks, the very first name Garga Muni gave to Balaramji was Rama, the one who will give transcendental pleasure. And then he said, he will also be the source of strength. Therefore, he will be called as Bala, and he will be known as Balaram. So we all know what is that strength. It's a spiritual strength. All of our spiritual strength, all of our spiritual facilities, all seva opportunities, everything comes from Balaram. So what was it? So now how it comes from Balaram? One who's able to take shelter of bona fide Guru. Through that parampara connection, the mercy of Balaramji follows. But here, this Vedavad Rathas, they are teachers, they are followers. Nobody takes shelter of Guru, the bona fide Guru in that sense, the Bhakti Yoga. They have their own Yajnik Brahmanas or, this Karma Kandi Brahmanas. They are nowhere in connection with any of the grace of the Lord. So they keep on thinking, they keep on introspecting, they keep on interpolating, etc., etc. They would say, don't get caught up with the fruitive language. We read that in third chapter. Don't get caught up with the fruitive language, Arjuna. This fruitive language encourages you to go to Swarga and things like that. But don't get caught up. And who cannot get caught up? I mean, if any one of us have to read, all of us would agree here, whoever has tried to read Bhagavad Gita on their own, probably we have just not understood anything. I'm saying for the first time when we read it. Unless we hear it not once, maybe several times, or maybe let's say hear the same recording few times, then it begins to make sense. Hear it once and hear it after 2 years, you will see a tremendous difference. If you have continued to chant Hare Krishna for 2 years, that happens.
अभी भी किधर समझता है?
हाँ,
अभी भी किधर समझता है?
हाँ, अभी तो मेरे को भी बोलते बोलते समझता नहीं मैं क्या क्या बोल रहा हूँ. So that's a point here that I understand in this regard. Vedavad. So we are all fortunate that, we are really fortunate at times. I regret that I don't understand my great fortune. Of course, sometimes we may regret that, we missed the chance of being present at the time of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I guess we have nothing to regret. We should be more fortunate that we are present at the time of Srila Prabhupada. And if you want to say, you can say we are more fortunate being present at the time of his disciples. Imagine the future generation, they would not even have that. So the whole time and energy goes on or gets wasted in saying what I don't have, where we don't pay attention to what I have. And if we can just realize what I have, our heart will be filled with so much gratitude. And the whole way of looking at the world will entirely change. Rather than demanding, then we'll be in a mood of what can I give? Because I've received so much. Each one of us here, we may realize or not realize, but trust me, we have received so much. At least I can say for myself, not worthy at all for it. Not at all worthy for it, but I received so much, so much. Where was I going and where am I sitting here today? There is no connection of it at all. And even after being here, after having this blessed opportunity, which I had not even thought in my dreams, at this point of time also, if I have some regrets, have complaints, have some this and that, it doesn't work it out. So if somebody asks me what's my motto of life, I just say, live your life to the fullest. live your life to the fullest. Now, I don't mean by live your life to the fullest is you go and have a pack of Jack Piper or black pepper, whatever that piper comes in the market. That's not what I mean by live to life to the fullest, go to theater. Live life to the fullest as a devotees. We are the best of the sense gratifiers. Enjoy your life. When we kirtan goes on, devotee goes away. Are kirtan, you're supposed to dance and enjoy. Then why do you walk away? When you have devotee sangha to spend time with each other, then we spend time on WhatsApp. When we have an opportunity to take darshan of the Lord, then we are distracted and sitting in our room. When we have a facility to go on yatra, then we give some family excuse. We have all the opportunity, but we're not taking advantage. Won't be blamed for it? So, this is my humble understanding. We had the most blessed opportunity, and we had the least struggle to do to practice bhakti. Find out the lives of our the Prabhupada disciples, and you will know how much. I'm speaking this for everyone. I'm not addressing you only. I'm just speaking for everyone in general, that all of us will know how much they had to struggle,
Yeah, Prabhu, my question I asked also was meant for everybody, because this, I said my Asurik Bhava, but I'm quite sure everybody has got their own limited Asurik Bhavas. Everybody has got
16th chapter says
and
everyone has it. Krishna says himself.
Yeah.
अगर horoscope check कराओगे ना, तो you have देव गुण, असुरिक गुण, अपना maximum proportion असुरिक गुण का निकलने वाला है कलयुग में. वो तो जैसे तैसे थोड़ा सा देव गुण शायद आ रहा है, वरना तो by default असुरिक गुण था, और कलयुग के संग में तो सबका सब असुर गुण ही होने वाला था. So somehow we were saved a little bit.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Prashant Jalgi Prabhu. Unmute. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Actually, in a recent discussion with one of the new devotee, wherein recently she took up chanting, and she started chanting about 16 rounds, and there was an incident which she shared that she got some tears automatically coming without anything doing. So, and when you spoke of Yogmaya and Mahamaya, where the Yogmaya hides Krishna but sometimes reveals it, and one of your lectures some few months ago, you had also told that initially at some stage Krishna gives us some kind of hints that, okay, you're doing good, encourage just for our encouragement. So this tears coming, I could not answer her properly, but this tears coming, is it a kind of can we conclude that is it a kind of Yogmaya or something like that, or I'm not sure.
Very difficult to say.
Yeah.
But largely it is nothing but a material emotional burst. Okay. It just cannot happen without concrete devotional practice for those kind of emotions to naturally arise. When you will have that emotion, then you will understand those emotional feelings are entirely different than what we experience maybe in the beginning stages. They're entirely two different realities. So this could be because of our past connections with spiritual practice in this life and the previous life. These are largely material emotions. These are not necessarily spiritual emotions for that reason. And it takes a while for those spiritual emotions to get awakened. And it takes a whole process for it. That is called as Bhakti Yoga. Now, when you have to address her, you can say, wow, that's the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is attracting you, so give that special attraction. That's so you can just feel inspired. But here is a philosophical discussion. I'm just talking on that basis. It's more of a material emotional outburst. I've seen so many people in Kirtan happens, they cry. I remember, we do this here Kirtan Sandhya program. Every month we have a Kirtan. You're from here only. You just recently shifted to Europe. So we have the Kirtan programs, right? 2 hours of Kirtan and I speak for half an hour, 45 minutes about Krishna. So I remember one Kirtan program was going on. One person was sitting on a chair, right opposite to me at a distance at the end of the wall. His eyes were closed and tears were flowing. मैंने कहा, वाह भाई, he's too much in, this thing that eyes are closed, the tears are flowing. And then just to observe him, I changed my melody from the soft to middle and the fast melody. That fellow seemed totally unaffected. And after the whole kirtan went, and I went to him, and I realized that fellow was sleeping. All through the kirtan, he was sleeping. He woke up, and I was so shocked. I said, "What happened?" He said, "Prabhuji, as soon as you started speaking, I went to sleep." I said, "Yeah, that's a usual experience." I said, "I can imagine that happened with people in the class. You have broken all my records that you went in sleep while kirtan." And he had no idea why he had tears. I didn't ask him, maybe because he had, a lot of pained eyes, his eyes got a little relaxation because of closing the eyes or whatnot. So I said, oh, when he said, so he felt a little guilty. I said, no, this is actually very nice. So I said, what I said? I said, oh, this is very nice actually, Kirtan helps you to relax. So that is wonderful. So next time when you feel a little material anxiety, you can hear Kirtan. So, you get used to Kirtan. So at least, so starting point should be there like that. So yeah, strange things would happen. Okay. But be on the inspiring note. That should be our attitude towards, at least with all you fellas, to inspire them. It depends on which forum and to whom you are addressing to. Don't tell them this is all Mahamaya. You're into Maya. Don't say like that, all that. Yes, Madanjana.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, this is not regarding today's lecture. I just want to clear some certain things regarding our assignment, because now next session we will be submitting our.
Correct.
Yes,
so first of all, wish you all very happy Janmashtami, because we're going to catch up after some time. So next week, not because that's Janmashtami weekend, and the following 2 weeks I'm traveling, and the 4th, although I'm going to be back by 4th morning, but that is Radhashtami, so not possible. Our next class would be on
be on
11th Sunday, right? On 11th
Prabhuji,
of September.
But Prabhuji, you have given us the tentative schedule. We've got the message. We will be having break from 20th August to 8th October. Is it so?
October? No.
Yes, we have got a message.
Send me a message. I might have written in hurry. It's actually September. 11th September, August, September, right? So 11th September would be our next class. So 4th, 5th, 6th chapter, we'll finish it that way in a couple of weeks. And somewhere
11th September. Okay, fine.
So
and
please use this next 3 weeks break in completing your open book assignment, please. So,
yes,
of course, I know you'll have Janmashtami celebration, preparation, a lot of things would be there. If not this coming week, maybe the next week after that, you can take a time off. When there is a break between Janmashtami and Radhashtami, then you can do that.
Yes, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, just in question number 2 of open book assessment, it is given that we have to refer to Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 to 6 and comments from Prabhupada's lectures. So why do we have to refer to?
Okay, I don't look into these things much. I look into it and reply. I have no idea what's the question also.
I was just going through it and I thought since we have...
I'll take a look into the questions and I'll reply back onto the group only what is to be done. I have no idea what are the questions also.
And second thing is that after first question, it is written with respect to personal application. And in second question, preaching application. Please explain what exactly we have to do here. What is the personal application?
Open book assignment are more for, is something, how would you use that wisdom? It could be a personal application, it could be a preaching application also. So let me just pull out the student material, open book assignment question, Bhagavad Gita open book. This is the question bank, open book question Bhakti Shastri. Let me just show it to all of you here. I have the document. I hope all of us have the same document.
You have given us 2 pages.
So this is the one. So you have these 2 questions. Unit 1, explain in your own words the process sense control by Krishna consciousness. Arjun's situation on battlefield, your own practice is perfect. So good. Establish in your own words. We have to solve both the questions, right? Or one question?
Yes, Prabhu. Both the questions.
Establish in words the superiority of Bhakti Yoga, the system versus Prabhupada and comments from. Comments from Prabhupada lectures, if in case you get to hear. If that's okay.
Okay.
In your answer, explain the following: the impracticality of yoga system other than Bhakti Yoga in Kali Yuga. How Bhakti Yoga contains all the components of other yoga system, and how Bhakti Yoga can be practiced without having practiced other yoga
system.
So we'll speak about the yoga ladder in the 6th chapter also, and I have a separate recording around 15 minutes of what this yoga ladder is. I'll share that also. That'll give you enough clue about it, like that. All right.
And what about this application, personal application and preaching application? What's the difference like personal?
So here, this
Yes,
is a question about the process of sense control. So
Mhm.
that is your personal application, right? How do I control my sense?
How do we control? We have to
Ah.
write about it. Okay.
Yes. How is it relevant for Arjuna's situation on battlefield of Kurukshetra? Which means if you are put into a dilemma, a conundrum, how would you deal with it? And the first thing is take shelter of authorities. I'm giving you one answer. Now coming to preaching application, how do you establish Bhakti Yoga to be the best? If you have to talk to somebody and tell him, Bhakti Yoga is the easiest and the best way, that is the preaching application. Because you're already practicing Bhakti Yoga. So how do you convince others? What shlokas could you quote? And the best section that we discuss is the 3rd chapter, verse number 1 to 9. There Krishna establishes how Bhakti Yoga is the easiest and the best. So verse number 1 to 30 is the portion of discussion which you can focus from there, like that. Okay. So point is, how do you tell people Bhakti Yoga is the best? That's a point here of discussion. Okay. All right. I feel so guilty. It's almost the same time, and today we didn't have a break also. Although the plan was to end the class early. Please excuse me for not giving you all break. That was not intended. It just so happened coincidentally. But thank you all for being here. Once again, wish you a very, very happy Krishna Janmashtami. Wonderful celebration on Prabhupada's appearance day. And also Radha Ashtami. We're going to catch up after that. And have a wonderful days and week all together. And Krishna willing, we'll catch up again on the 11th of September when we resume our discussions. All right. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki